For the following video, make sure that you have your graphing calculator with you. We are going to be drawing a scatter plot and using our calculator to make sure our scatter plot is proper, and then use the calculator features to find a prediction equation and make a prediction. And so we need to understand how to use the calculator, what features are there to solve this problem. So let's first start. Our table shows us the relationship of distance and time together. So we're going to let our distance be our x, and we're going to let our time be our y. So the first thing I'm asked to do is to sketch the scatter plot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to label my x-axis as my distance, and I'm going to label my y-axis as my time. And then I'm going to just plot all of my points. So I'm at, looks like 60, 25, 105 all the way up to 55. I'm at 140 all the way up to 80. I'm at 175 all the way up to 110. I'm at 205 all the way up to 145. And then I'm at 225 all the way up to 170. And so here is my scatter plot. By looking at it, I can see we have a positive correlation. The values are increasing from left to right. If I were to imagine a line going as close as it can through all of these, it'd have a positive slope for it. So that's our scatter plot. Now we need to find our, says, prediction equation. Now the prediction equation itself, you may hear referred to as a line of best fit. It's the line that best fits all of these points represented on the graph. So we will need our calculators for this, and you're going to want to follow step by step. I will try and do some screen captures to post online to help out for it. If you're really stuck and can't remember, then rewatching this portion of the video will be helpful for it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to input our x values and y values in our calculator. So we need to find a way to input this table in the calculator. And what we do is we use our statistics button, our stat button located right here in the calculator. So I hit stat. We want to choose edit, and that will allow us to go through and put our x1 and y1 values, x1 values and y values in the calculator. So I'm going to choose edit. I'm going to put my x values in L1. I'm going to put my y values in L2. So I have 60, 105, 140, 175, 205, and 225. Hit enter on that last one to make sure it's stored, and then hit the right arrow and start entering in the y values, 25, 55, 80, 110, 145, and 170. And so now I have all of my x values and y values input in the calculator. Now the first thing we're going to do, so that's inputting our table. The first thing we're going to do after we input our table is I want to make sure my graph, my scatter plot, is accurate. So here we have how we input our table. And so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to figure out how do we check the scatter plot. And so to check the scatter plot, what we're going to do is we're going to have to first turn on our stat plot itself. So to do this, hit second y equals. Above that we see it says in blue stat plot, so second y equals. And here are our stat plot options. There are three types of ones we're going to plot, but we're going to only plot one. They give us three options. We only need one. So I'm going to choose option 1 for this, the plot 1. I'm going to hit enter. Now if we look, these are our options. First, we want to turn it on. Hit down. Next, we're going to leave this as is. You can see this looks like a scatter plot. We have some box and whiskers looks like box and whiskers with outliers. Histogram, we don't care about that. We just care about this one being highlighted, our Scatterplot. And then we go down. L1 is our X list, that's right. L2 is our Y list, that's right. The mark, we don't care about. It's just telling you what type of point it will use to plot it. So we're all good with all of this, so I can actually just cancel out. My stat plot is turned on. Next, what I'm going to do is we saw my stat plot is turned on, so I'm going to take a picture of that for us so we know what to do and we can look at it. I'm then going to go and hit my zoom. I want to make my graph window an automatic size, and our calculator allows us to do that by doing zoom 9, which is zoom stat. Our calculator automatically look at all the data in our table and create a window size that can represent all of that data. So I'm going to choose zoom 9 for this, zoom stat, hit enter, and we can see our graph. And if I were to put the graphs a little bit side by side, we see our points do kind of follow the same pattern on both the one on the calculator and on the one we did by hand. So that's how to check our scatter plot. The next thing we're going to learn how to do with the calculator is the most important part, which is to calculate the linear regression equation. So to calculate the linear regression equation, this is where we need to pay attention. This is what's going to be expected on a test. What you want to do, let me just cancel out of this so I can quit. You're going to hit your stat button again. Go to calculate. And we're going to choose option 4. Our prediction equation is also known as a linear regression equation. And so when I choose option 4, now my calculator is a little bit different than some of yours. I have the updated operating system. The directions that are going to be given out to you on how to do this has the steps on how to do it on the old operating system. So on the new operating system, it's very, very useful and easy is you make sure your lists are on X lists are on L1, Y lists are L2. We don't care about the frequency list. We're just going to leave that one blank. And then what I'm going to do for this is it's asking here, do you want to store your regression equation? And I'm going to tell you we do want to store a regression equation. And we want to store it in our Y1. And the way we do that is we hit vars, go over to our Y variables, and we're going to choose function. We're trying to graph a linear regression equation. We're trying to graph a function. And so when I choose function, I'm going to tell my calculator, hey, I want you to store the function in Y1 for me automatically. So I'm going to hit enter on Y1. And so now my calculator shows X list as an L1, Y list as an L2. My regression equation will be stored in Y1 for me. And now I'm going to ask it to calculate the regression equation. So I'm going to hit enter. And now if we look, I have my linear regression equation that is given to me. We can write it down, our prediction equation, approximate it. I'm going to do y equals 0.87x minus 34.64. And that is my linear regression equation, my prediction equation. And now what's the interesting part is if I go to my graphing calculator and go to the graph, we will see since it stored it in my Y1 value, it now sketched the line for me. So I can kind of follow the same process and I can sketch my line of best fit that is very similar to that through my points in my graph. And you can see it has a positive slope and therefore it has a positive correlation. So that is calculating the linear regression equation. You have the screen captures, you have the video to help you out with how to go through it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to make a prediction with the equation. We are told here we want to find the time needed to travel 300 kilometers. So if I remember, my x values represent distance, my y values represent time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my distance. 0.87, x is 300, and then minus 34.64. And so y equals, so I can take my calculator, go back to the calculating screen and type in 0.87 times 300 and minus 34.64. Hit enter. Looks like 226.36. So I have 226.36, and our units for time was minutes. So the amount of time it takes to travel the 300 kilometers is 226.36 minutes. I know this is a long video. The long video, though, is because we had to introduce how to go about using our graphing calculator, how to input our table of values, how to check the scatter plot to make sure it's accurate, and then how to calculate our linear regression equation. There are a lot of buttons and features to use. I just want to make sure you have the screen captures to look at and you have this video to go through and see the process worked out for you. We will have one more example on the next video on how to use a scatter plot and make prediction equation with the graphing calculator. So for more help, please watch the next video.